all different kinds of funny little things were patched onto their faces and their bodies, and they gauged a reduction in anger, a reduction in hostilities, a reduction in agitation because of smelling the tears of women, a bunch of women. And then that's the solution. And then on this side, the control side, they were made to smell that solution after getting these flash images, and their aggression was maintained or even heightened because they were made to ruminate on what they had just seen. And so they just got angrier and angrier as they were busy smelling these solutions. And I got this thing. And so they were maintained in all of that aggression. Essentially, the moral of that study is that there is power to the tears of a woman. There is power to a woman being upset. There is power to the emotions of a woman. There is something supernaturally given us by God that stills emotion, or that quietens the aggression in men, that simmers them down when women cry. When women cry, like a mandla could be out here, wow, wow, boo, ra, boo, boo, all up in your girl. But the moment you're like, the moment tears come out, apparently there is something in us, some hormone, a pheromone, that is excreted by female tears that has got a supernatural, intoxicating power to subdue the wrath of a man. Our tears work. That's why God made us so emotional, so as to simmer down this tendency towards violence. So when men fight each other and they're arguing, that's why they can keep on, administering blows. Even when they're out here, hey, I'm gonna catch you, man. They can still keep fighting. But a man out here arguing with his wife should, when she breaks out into tears, at least it used to be the case, stay his hand from continuing to argue. His voice should simmer down. They should tone down. They should cease hostilities against the woman. Tears work. Women's tears work to still men's aggression, because we have no ability to escape or survive if they were to aggressively finish what they start. They are stronger than us in ways that make us essentially at their mercy unto lethal blows if they don't calm down because we're crying. So a man that keeps on yelling at a woman that's crying, what's gone on over there? It's written in God's word in Romans. Is it Romans 1? I stand corrected, but basically because of a maintenance of wickedness, people's consciences get seared. God hands them over to a reprobate mind because they've not loved the truth, but have taken pleasure rather in their unrighteousness. When a person just lets themselves continue in a spate of crazy without hearkening to their consciences, when their heartstrings are being pulled away at and they don't appropriately respond, they get seared, they get calloused, essentially. And when you get calloused, at some point you stop appropriately responding to that which you used to appropriately respond to. And there is a concert of men in these 2024 streets that have literally determined to ignore how they feel about how a woman feels. It is a whole male strategy. It's a reverse psychology tactic where they determine to ignore the emotional fever that is being expelled by a woman. And when you ignore it long enough, when you ignore that a woman is crying for long enough, you will start to not feel that which you initially felt. At first, you will get pinched in your heart from seeing her tears, but then outwardly act like you don't care. And then after being trained like Pavlov's dogs over a season by this behavioral response, you will then catch up. You know how Pavlov's dogs continued to salivate even when there was no longer any meat presented, insofar as there was a metronome ticking or a bell ringing. Those dogs continued to salivate even when there was no reward in the end. So they basically continue to be cold and aloof and despondent. In so being aloof and despondent and unresponsive to a woman's pain, they then end up genuinely salivating. In other words, they end up genuinely feeling nothing. Walking out when a woman is crying, not apologizing, not being sorry for the fact that she is sad. I watched my ex do this like clockwork. In the beginning of our relationship, he was all sensitive towards my tears. He was all sensitive towards my shakes. And then as time progressed, he started to ignore me and be, if anything, irritated when I would start to cry. Once he got seared in that fashion, once he noticed that it makes me Initially, my tears caused his response, and that would appease me. When he noticed that after me crying, I then eventually get over it, if he ignores me, it trained him to be seared towards my tears. It's like an anxious, ambivalent attachment style, an anxious, ambivalent relationship attachment style. Like, how can I describe this even further? Like a baby, for instance, that gets left crying for a very long amount of time without being coddled, ultimately keeps quiet, not because they no longer have emotions, but because they have made an observation that the mother doesn't care. But when the mother comes in, they will long for them. Like, again, there was an experiment done where a baby was put in a room and its caretaker was put on the outside of the room. So was put in the room with the baby. When the caretaker left, the baby would cry. And if the caretaker came back, the baby would keep quiet. And this kept on being a thing. The baby was therefore trained that my tears succeed, prosper, to bring presence in the room of that which I want in my ecosystem. And so it teaches this child to sometimes release sound. Oh, that's why babies do that. Even when there's no tears coming out, it's dry. So these kids are not genuinely now emotional. They just want you around. So you then are basically being manipulated by this baby's tears, and you come back and you come back. Right? But if the opposite happens, where it is that the baby cries genuine tears, yet the caretaker stops coming through. The first time the baby cries, the caretaker comes in. The baby will stop crying. The second time, the caretaker leaves. And if the baby cries and the caretaker does not come back, by the time the caretaker comes back, the baby will have an aggression, an irritation with the presence of this caretaker because he or she ignored their tears. They will be relieved that the caretaker is there, but they will also be irritated because the caretaker ignored them. And so their relationship will be like, it'll be passive aggressive. It'll be like trauma bonding. Essentially, you are out here being attached to somebody that you need, you like the company of, but they don't care about you. However, you cannot not have them around. So you develop a dependency called trauma bonding, and your relationship, your attachment style to them is called anxious ambivalent. You don't want them, but you want them. You don't want them, but you want them. Men create an anxious ambivalent attachment style in relationships by ignoring the tears of women. Women want them, but they don't want them. So when the men are there, the women still have attitude. They're passing shade. They're acting a fool. And if the men leave, these women are anxious. They wish that the men were there. And so there is a sorrow in them. But when the husband rocks up, it's not like she's going to hug him. She's not like she's going to love him, cuddle him, make him dinner. She's going to be relieved that usendlini. But people just pass each other on the passage. But you are irritated and anxious when he's not home. You are no longer welcoming him with open arms, kissing him on some "I'm glad you're home" husband, making him a meal. Because he has so many times ignored you when you said, "When are you coming?" Give me phone, not respond, disappear for 2 days. When he comes, you're relieved he's there. At least you know Yambona that he's not cheating. But you are not getting along. It's anxious ambivalent, it's trauma bonding. It's marriages between men and women where men out here keep on ignoring the emotions of their wives. Their wives they end up merely content with the presence of the husband. However, akunathando, there's no love. There's no enjoyment of each other's company. Just contentment that you are here. However, irritation, hostilities. But should this guy leave, Kwatile futhi, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Until she stops, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Just like the baby stops crying. When the person ignores the cries long enough, the baby eventually keeps quiet. But when the person comes back, they're hostile. The wife stops, where are you? Where are you? So husband then takes 2-3 days. 2-3 days, come back home after 2-3 days, or comes back home at midnight, blah, blah, blah. The woman no longer complains. Feel like they robotize women in marriages. She's just content, magasendlini, and if you're home for 2 weeks in a row, there's more contentment to break the cycle of that trauma and to cure a woman from trauma bonding to her husband and from that anxious ambivalent relationship style, attachment style. The man has to consistently keep on showing up, consistently keep on saying nyeza, and consistently keep on loving, so that this woman can now cry successfully again, such that inyembezi do achieve the goal of creating a reduction in aggression and an empathy in a man. So if God has inbuilt that reduction in aggression and that empathy towards women when they cry, and men do everything in their power to sear it, to destroy it, we are at 2 Timothy 2. The world it's not loves the truth, it has taken pleasure in its unrighteousness. So God has sent them a strong delusion because they have just taken on rubbish. They have seared their own consciences. And so these cold marriages where there's a whole bunch of trauma bonding, ultimately that's why people get caught aside, like they get hoodwinked and sidetracked by divorce. It's like, how in the world do you think a marriage that is that anxious, ambivalent, and that trauma bonded? How do you expect it to just linger and linger and linger? Which is why sometimes you find couples after kids move to university or move out of home, they divorce after 20 years of marriage. Trauma bonding, anxious, ambivalent attachment style, roommates, because of just the disrespect of a person's emotions. So, seeing as women's emotions do that naturally, but guys are ignoring them, it is no wonder then, all these years down the line, there are all these hostile women that are doing everything in their power to put on the same band of sorrow all the rest of the women of the earth that are yet to experience a callousing within, like going on right ahead to grab a dainty, coy lady and making her an angry monster, an angry beast that is unyielding. That anxious ambivalence in women and that trauma bonding that never ever gets healed or recovered is the very thing that produces matriarchies that are unruly, malevolent, diabolical. Women out here telling themselves that if I am not going to get love out of this, since the woman's main desire is love, if I'm not going to get love out of this, I'm going to get money. So you find all of these slay queens everywhere. The trend is growing. It is an exponential incline, and it is creating a bunch of women that don't demand character from men, only money, and a bunch of men that don't insist on building character, only bank accounts. And then they subjugate to the tyranny of all of their concerted crazy. They subjugate to the tyranny of all of that us, who are still pretty old school. Us who are still insistent on basic reciprocity of respect, love, and camaraderie. Can we please just acknowledge that you don't get to talk to me like I ain't Jack? Can we please just acknowledge that you don't get to one-tick me on WhatsApp and have me still consider you for a romantic sweeter next week? Can we please just acknowledge that the moment you use the F word in my grill, we're done? In an argument, you can say flip, you can say maybe even dying. You can say, goodness, I can't, like, you are just so annoying. Yo, if I can be angry and exercise self-control over my language as a Christian in my ministry, albeit being endured through so much trash, then you can too. So basically, you are without excuse. If anybody can do it, then so can you. You don't get to speak to me and have me next week reconcile. It's a toxic environment and ain't nobody supposed to be hanging out in it. These guys don't build character. They've got short fuses. Because you see, the thing that makes a short fuse, that makes you quickly just walk in anger, is the fact that you don't appropriately respond to tears. You are just annoyed by them because you ignored them for that long. The supernatural power of a woman's tears, you ignored that grace from God so that it can train you to exercise self-control. You ignored it for so long that now a woman's crying irritates you. It makes you bang the door. It makes you say, I don't care. It makes you short-fused. It makes you, the kind of man, it makes you a man with a small little heart. You are quick to use. You are quick to ugnapa. You are quick to call a woman under your breath the B word. Quick. You've got a short fuse because you let yourself ignore the tears of a woman for long enough. Because that is the strategy of misogynistic men. Don't respond to tears. Magakala throwing a toys at the cot, pumagui. Just act like onandaba. Read a newspaper. Read an article on your cell phone. Get out, take a drive. When you come back, don't even ask, are you cool? Do that to a woman long enough, and never mind will the woman become passive aggressive and like, what is this, anxious ambivalent. So too will you become an insensitive prick as time progresses. Just cold and jefela, priding yourself in indaba yokuthi awusenandaba, you no longer feel as you used to. When people pride themselves on losing their ability to feel, you are priding yourselves in being one step closer to hell. Because that seared conscience is the very thing that makes it impossible for you to respond appropriately to the gospel message. It is no wonder nami I've been ignored for years on end by a whole bunch of amadoda that out here be sitting around calling themselves men and telling themselves that they can help me if I will just let them. Except them helping me if I will just let them is them essentially having me for a wife, number 2, number 3, number 5, maybe even a side piece, and then they will give me money because, like I said, all they think is needed here is money. All they are of the imagination is the imperative thing here is money. They think uguti, it's only a matter of time upon parching a woman of wealth before she eventually takes me and all of my trash in her stride. I get to be that level of rudeness, and I'm expected to just accommodate a marriage like that. But you see, it's all of these recruited cult operationists, these cult members that have been successfully recruited, these women that have been brought into this little secret society of trash. They are now operating as brain-eating amoeba, thoroughly trying to make me just what they are. Babata hong forced who can get anything that comes my way because they took it. And seeing as the Lord is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, seeing as Christ will not, for the life of him, take in his stride the ripping apart from their position of firmness, one who has made the right choice, seeing as the Lord is content with my decision. If at all you are going to work to the nail to unravel me and uproot me from that which is sober still, you are going to die. You are made little witches, women. You are made little witches that are content with nothing but ikeri from amadoda. Just money, that's it. You are made content with nothing but child maintenance. At least we, but it's at least again. At least. Lime Gagwani, that's your national anthem. At least I had a husband. At least I've got a car. At least I've got a house. At least I've also got some friends. At least I've got what I need. At least I've given birth and I'm not a geriatric womb. At least I've walked down the aisle. At least I can say that I was once married. At least he pays child maintenance. At least my child goes to a private school. At least I've got food in the pantry. At least when I walk into the store I can pay with my own card. At least I am okay financially. I've got a house. At least I'm not living at the back of my mom's house in a shack, gathering dust, waiting for an impossible thing that's love. Yeah, you be out here making a hymn out of at least. It's your national anthem and your hymn. At least. Yeah. This at least mentality, the way that so many women are now walking in it. At least I had a baby. At least I got to use my womb. At least I once was married. At least I have a husband. At least no matter husband, you've got an anxious, ambivalent relationship with him. Trauma bonded. At least. When women are not walking in that at least, ngoba amadoda don't build character, just bank accounts. Yeah. When somebody is like, I'm sorry, no. I mean, I'm not gonna have some bugger ghost me for 3 weeks and then we get back together. Cool. I'm not gonna have some dude throwing the S and the P and the whatever word, expletive and fella all up in my grill. Angruag and fella speak to me and tear me up. And then we get back together after a month. Never. I am not about to have some rude psychopath out here take out on me indaba yokuthi ngithe I cannot be with a man that does ABC to me bese ayongikhiphela isquinch by sleeping with a woman that is too close for comfort, like somebody that is a colleague of mine. But hey, he loves me bese ayabui. At least he finally married me. At least, yeah, okay, you will keep saying at least until you are a bitter broad. Never mind being a bitter broad, but now you're so evil that God gotta throw you in hell, because what in the world is going on over here? You are so evil that you also make it your life mission to grab the last remaining 5-10 women on the street, on the left and on the right, and make them at least us two. Everybody gotta be in the at least bandwagon. Everybody gotta be in the at least bandwagon. Everybody gotta be out here carrying at least for a mantle. It's your scoliosis. It's the hunchback that you got. At least means you can at least walk even though you've got scoliosis. Yeah. Apparently because I'm 40 years old, I gotta take at least in my stride. Women, you are brain-eating amoeba. Because you know what? Why Gelibiza are brain-eating amoeba? In particular, at least. This thing that is fatal, it kills eventually. It's written in God's word that the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life for they who are in Christ Jesus. So essentially, wickedness ultimately lends you to eternal destruction. But before then, oh, how it makes you so dumb. A brain-eating amoeba, the symptoms in the run-up to are never mind a headache, but a literal dumbing down of the person, because there is a gnawing away at brain cells. Gnawing away at brain cells. Until you lose your mathematical ability, until you lose your aptitude, your ability to learn, until you lose your analytical ability, until you lose your literary ability, until basically small little things like 1 + 1 = 2 just aren't grabbing anymore. Basic things like my name is Karabo aren't grabbing anymore. Basic stuff like I'm a black woman and I grew up in Soweto and I like blue is my favorite color, blah, whatever it is that might be a thing. I have a cat by the name of Pinky Tom and blah, blah, blah. All that knowledge just flees out the window until you're just gazing into what will be the tantamount of an onset of dementia. Blotches and patches of understanding until you're dead. You end up nizikhohlwa. You forget yourselves. You forget everything. You forget, like I said, your little cat that you grew up with and that you grew up loving, little Tommy Pinky cat. You forget who you were as a kid. You forget what you like. You forget abazali bakho ukuthi bakufundiseni. You forget what used to be your values. You forget what makes sense. You forget what are your core principles. All that just flies out the window. You lose yourselves as women. You become dumbed down. And then take in your stride. Listen to this, how disturbing is that? You then take in your stride that which would have been a flagrant abomination and a travesty back in the day. The acceptance of an unacceptably arrogant and entitled conglomerate of destructive men. Amadoda that before, you all would have in concert been like over our dead bodies, never. Yo, lesenja. Basically, that which would cause you to empathize with other women, you are unable to do it anymore. These women that are brain-eating amoeba, bathatwe this tsunami, gender-based violence against other women. They don't care about cheating against other women. They don't care about rudeness in men against women. Entitlement, isitembu, if anything, they insist that they want to be the second, third, fourth wife. They start to settle. They start to even shell out your own husbands and say that I'm going to be a second wife. I don't mind. Just like what I spoke about yesterday. Like the losing so much empathy towards fellow women that awusazi boni. I am telling you right now in this 2024 that we are living in. If you were born in the 2000s, 1990s, 80s, you're old enough for this to be true. When you were a teenager, there is no way under heaven, and I can say this even for my little sister who's a Gen Z, she's 22. None of you would have ever at the age of 14, 15, ever fathomed yourself being in a polygamous marriage. You always had that picket fence Barbie doll dream of being whisked away by a Prince Charming that's going to be your husband, and the two of you are going to have 20 kids. and you're going to be a very happy wife, and on your wedding day you're going to be the most beautiful bride. What is that song? Even when you played house as kids, marrying the boy from next door in a game, it was the boy from next door in a game. And the boy from next door did not insist among you as girls to have a second wife and a third and a fourth and a fifth. Out of all of you girls, it was always just you, Lerato, and Vose playing this game as children, pretending to get married. Yeah. Your dreams were always about monogamy. As teenagers, when you started dating, it was always a monogamous hope, desire. Cheating did hurt. You did not want to be exchanged with different girls. You wanted your little Tepo to be the only one, and vice versa. And yet here it is that at 25, 7, 30, 35, you are literally considering polygamy as an option. Not only that, sometimes you even flirt with married men, prepared to offer them yourself as a second wife. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. You lose empathy and sympathy towards other women, because to insist upon isitembu is to hurt the woman who was there first. You don't care about the entitlement of men who also want it, and you also don't care, wena as inyatsi, about the woman that you are afflicting, and so being a side piece. That level of a lack of empathy is something that you graduate into over time as your moral virtue deteriorates. Over time, because you have been at least listing, and taking more and more trash in your stride, and making an observation of the moral putrefaction of men. And so therefore telling yourselves, at least whoa, you are the ones that teach them to build nothing but their bank accounts. No character, just bank accounts. They can keep on throwing money guns, they can spraying women with money guns. And so with the money landing on their feet, all the rubbish they can take. Aloba content with being ghosted for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You've been blocked on why yo now that will ever block me. There is not even a single man that would ever under heaven block me. On social media, on WhatsApp, on wherever, that will ever be able to successfully say, baby, I miss you. Can we talk? Wangtel. Nna ke tlo go sendela WhatsApp e tlo dula ko one tick for 2 weeks, and only after 2 weeks bese kuyavuleka o ngiyatshelwa ukuthi ngiblokiwe ke maswabi. Ke sa khone go phone from my own cell phone device. I gotta go and either use somebody else's phone or the work phone, and as soon as you say hello, you then hang up on me. I'll cut out fall. However, after 2 weeks of enduring triage in your heart, you then call me because you miss me, when there's barely anything that I did wrong other than accuse you of cheating. I'm sorry, Baga. Ain't no immature psychopath of that nature out here blocking me anywhere that's ever going to get any love back, any ability to negotiate, talk. I'm at the way 2024 they don't realize how rude it is. Like leaving your phone off the hook. Like think about it being 1984, 1999. A man literally grabbing his phone or taking the cord out of the phone, knowing that you're the only one that has that number, just so you can't call him. Just so you can't call him. Like stuff like that just never used to happen. A person just not responding to a text wako that you are in a relationship with. They at least owe you, I don't want to talk, I'm not ready to talk, please. I can't understand that I don't want to continue to communicate. I very potentially might not respond to your next text message because I'm still upset. There is a way to fight. Like I literally do. I don't even block people today, y'all. The guy who in America, he's a stalker, and that's the only reason why I blocked his email on Gmail. But I have a cousin that Alja gave me a job and then rescinded. Angim blogang on WhatsApp. I have some chick that Alja communicated with me and then stopped writing me because she found out that I didn't really get a job. I'm a blocker. If she wants to WhatsApp me, she still can. She still can. The only time that I block on WhatsApp is if somebody wangwaka. Like if somebody is out just swearing at me and it's very upsetting for me to see all that stuff, then maybe I might block them. It's if they're saying very hurtful things, then maybe I might block them because I don't want to hear from them ever again. But if I've only ever been cordial with a person but they broke my heart for whatever reason, I don't block. This whole blocking phenomenon, I don't even know what's going on. It's 2024, yo. Keep your funny little world, the version of it that you've created, where there is no avenue for a person to come back and try and talk, where there is no avenue for peacekeeping, truce making, cordialities, where a person cannot even just attempt to see or responda or dintsang or to flaunt another relationship in front of a person gawking at you, just so that you make them so you can cause them to envy you. These things are an epidemic of the last days. Okay, this random rubbish, this wickedness going on, it's an epidemic of the last days. And in a world like this, call me old-fashioned, I'm not doing it. An immature man who is short-circuiting, has a short fuse, speedy, and in his own personal space, he can even mumble the B word in referring to me. That is not somebody that I am ever going to accommodate ever again. There is no man that I'm going to write an email. Like there was some dude, a little devil worshipper, wasangoma ongshapileng ka korobela, right? But before ang shapa ka korobela thing, he contacted me on my email. I respond, not email, but on Facebook, and then it moved over to email. We were not talking on a romantic level, please. He was just a fan, and I was humoring him. I would respond with elaborate emails responding to questions that he had, and he would take 2, 3, 4 days sometimes to respond. When I saw that, I was like, he's one of those. And so it was of no surprise to me when then I got dreams of him. They're like that. They play games. Are you reading a woman's email or WhatsApp or text straight away and then making a decision, like sitting there and actually making a decision, even scheduling it on a calendar to respond to you after 2 days. And then when he responds, bese uba excited. When he responds, bese wena self responda with, oh, hey. When I responded to you, as soon as I got your email, I got straight to responding to it. I answered all of your email to a point of highlighting where it is that it was your question and my answer. Within 3 hours of you sending me that email. And then you take 4 days to get back to me after I gave you that kind of elaborate response. And even after those 4 days, otwara just a couple of things that I said. Or even telling a person that the email is quite lengthy, I'm still responding to it, and then you never do. And you just move on to the next topic. There's so much rudeness I've endured at the hands of men the past 10 years, guys, and I just don't understand what's along. There is no womanhood and there is no manhood left. It's just scantily scattered, sparsely across the streets of Earth. People who are still rational and sober. But largely, people are playing games and they're evil. They're malevolent. They're diabolical. They're causing psychological scars. And they're causing the rise of a matriarchy because of trying to deal with the flaccid patriarchy. And therefore the passive aggression of men who in their strength are then becoming violent. And so we're dealing with men killing women and women trying to coup the power of men. And I'm caught in the crosshairs of that. And then these short-circuiting, short-fused, ill-tempered men look at me, watch my content, and then feel like, oh, this is my kind of woman. Because yeah, men will always want a good woman eventually. After messing around with a whole bunch of slay queens in these streets, they will eventually always want a good girl. And they will always want a reasonable woman. Umuntu nje or totzing, like whose spirit is tranquil and who is peaceful. But without building character. Like you out here rocking up with grubby paws. And you want someone that is temperate. You are going to be a burden. A sultry, wicked presence in their lives. That is going to wear them out with all of your indiscretions. And all of your ghosting, and all of your reverse psychology, all of your gaslighting, all of your anxious, ambivalent attachment styling of her, all of your disregard of her pain. You created enough monsters, men. I'm not letting more of you come into my particular life. I got born again in 2011. And there is no way under heaven that I am going to make like Michael Jackson and moonwalk into a life of all this indiscretion from men, where a man is out here regarding your sorrow in the beginning, hating the tears of his woman, and now he can listen to her cry. If anything, he takes his jacket and walks out because wang pora gadigelet. So, but women have been endured through that until they became a little diabolical matriarchy. And now they're a brain-eating amoeba that is out here dumbing women down. It is causing women to forget their own intelligence, what they truly are, who they are, patches of their lives gone, void, naught, cancelled, ash, empty canyons, crevices, like little partitions of memory from back in the day of who they are. But there are perforations in their brains from these amoeba that make them forget who they are. And abafazi that have forgotten who they are expect me to see where they're coming from one day. And when then I don't ever get there, their reaction is similar to that of men's: anger and determination for the rest of my days, bringing me then to the dream that I got. The dream that I got, in it there were newspapers ezingaga on a boat that I understood to be a murder boat. It was a murder boat. Literally, the Lord called it a murder boat, and the murder that was being committed there was of better women, good girls, by the concert of wicked women that, because of the at least phenomenon, they allowed themselves to settle and compromise, because apparently, allegedly, if you don't settle and if you don't compromise, you will not be able to say, at least I got married. I am dealing with former friends, cousins, former colleagues, women in particular, right? That were at some point really great women, but who now today are so full of at least, that they are burning good girls. Burning the last remaining remnant of women that are unprepared, petunia. Women that are not prepared to do whatever it takes to have a better life than living in a 4-room with your mom. Women that don't want to recover from the scars of being trained by bad girls. Women who, as a result of their crazy, are metastasizing a disease. By mitosis, they're splitting. They're making disciples out of themselves. They're making disciples of what crashed train they are. What derailed train they are. They're making disciples of train cars at the back. They're causing other women to, by any means necessary, get to say at least. Kuthagatwa abantwana, kuthagatwa amadoda, kuthagatwa abangani, kuthagatwa anything on the left and on the right. They literally manufactured witches out of women, and these witches then begot more witches. Witchcraft begot more witchcraft, and witchcraft begets yet more witchcraft. They just became baloyi, and in such evil women that are easily used by men, so that we can all just say, at least I got married. Kana kwa tenge, I'm a third wife. Kana kwa tenge, I am out here taking in my stride 4 kids that are now almost teenagers that are gonna give me attitude. I'm now taking a divorcee in my stride. Yeah. But at least I got to get married. At least I got to have a wedding. He was prepared to give me the white wedding, the gown, the guests, the everything. Because I'm 40, I must just take it. There are women who have allowed themselves to get to say at least. And when they make an observation of Karabo refusing to say at least, now they have all determined this here, God called it a murder boat. These women were on a murder ship or a murder boat. It was a boat, but a very big, elaborate one. Like the boat of a wealthy man. On this murder boat, these women were out here killing not only me, but many other women like me. But on this murder boat, there was a male presence that was similarly murderous. It was similarly homicidal towards anything at all that was on that boat. It was psychopathic. There was an energy of a psychopathic male spirit that was determined to kill when it does not get its way. When people are exhausted, and it was being like, okay, how can I describe this? There were a whole bunch of newspapers, still wound in their, wrapped up, like, back in the daily newspaper, they were wrapped up in that thing that wraps up newspapers, and then they were thrown on the street, and then in the morning they would then get placed in the place where you get a newspaper, and then you would buy the newspaper. These newspapers were bunched up, yet to they were you could tell that they were thrown on street corners, and the people who sell the newspapers would then have to wake up in the morning and then collect these newspapers and sell them to motorists and whatnot, like it used to happen back in the day. But these women collected these newspapers from every street corner where they could find them. Guys, among these women was one of the girls that I went to high school with, one of my cousins, so many women that used to be my friends from long ago, women that were my colleagues at MTN, just a whole bunch of women out here working concerted, like they were it was like an assembly line, Joe, an assembly line. They drove this boat, this murderous spirit of a man drove this boat to the center of the ocean, and they grabbed these newspapers in their bunches, and like with an assembly line, almost like one woman was giving this badge to this woman, and this woman would then move it to the next woman. They would throw them overboard. They were throwing these newspapers overboard at sea, so no one could wake up in the morning and read the paper. So no one could wake up in the morning and smell the coffee and realize that we have lost who we are as a society, that the fabric of society is lost. These women were determining to hide not only me, but women like me. They were determining to hide not only me, but women like me. And this murderous spirit of a man on the boat was prepared to let them do this because it considered me pompous and arrogant to not let it help me out from the hands of wicked women. Like I said, they're working in concert together with each other. Evil men and evil women are helping each other finish the last remaining good girls and last remaining good guys. They are growing in number fever, excelling us. They are exceeding us in number. And so because there's so many of them, good men are buried and broken, and good women are buried and broken. And these two couple pairings, this Bonnie and Clyde spirit, we shall call it that, because it's like a criminal pair, they were throwing overboard the message of admonition. I bet you would agree a newspaper is a place where multiple reporters write in this newspaper the news from across the country, right? Or across the world. So these newspapers represented the voices of many men and many women on the ground. And they had, in concert, formed an assembly line on a murder boat to throw overboard all the newspapers of the world that are sharing common sense. It is essentially the burial of the body of Christ. They were actively working to bury at sea the entire freaking body of Christ. Anyone that remains that is still sober, you made your bed, lie in it. Take the world you have created. If you want the world with no one sober, if you want the world where you will keep on intimidating people to accept men with no character, or to accept women who take nothing but money as an appeasement on their persons, women who do whatever it takes in Defela to get to say, at least I got to have children. If you want the world so full of women who lose their sense of self, their ability to be able to empathize with other women, and their ability to be able to stick to their grounds, to stick to their virtues, like basically stand on what they believe. A world where people have just let themselves go. You are going to be given it, you guys. You are going to be given your wildest nightmares. It's not a dream, it's a nightmare. A world full of women that are just like, at least, I mean, when men don't have to build character, they're short, they keep on blocking you. Your marriages are passive aggressive. You're just content with your husband being around and watching TV, but not so much happy. You are always angry, and then on top of that, you end up training daughters to be evil, because when as a 45-year-old woman, you feel like your time has come and gone, the train has come and gone. So you're gonna go and grab a 17-year-old kid and say, while you still got juice in you, baby, you need to realize that unless you can make a man buy you a house that you're gonna get to retire in, you're wasting time. When you're busy creating faith and getsies out of daughters and the old school kanyimbao, perhaps even new school, when you are just manufacturing that level of evil in women, and there's no staying force, no staying power, nobody to make like Karabo, when she got to the age of 21, 22, realized this cousin is going to throw me and my future away. I'm not going to keep on following her. Well, when you keep on taking away that level of so sobering influence in the lives of women, who even though for a season they might have joined the cult, but then they snapped out of it before they got taken by a tsunami. When you take away the voices of reason from society to snatch women out from this cult, so that these men who are incentivized to stay filthy will realize, Uguti, the only way that I'm out here going to get a good woman is if I build character, because not every woman can be pulled. Gango. Yachelet. Not every woman can do, all you gotta do, Njefela, is show her a what. All you gotta do is show her a what. And then you can tell her jump how high. You can shoot at her feet and have her jump around like oil in a frying pan. And she's not going to complain. Or Gausani, she's gonna come back and still be your girlfriend. Like women that have been abused time and time again by men in various respects, be it emotional, psychological, mental, etc., maybe even physical, keep on getting back together with this rando that blocked them 2 weeks ago on WhatsApp. Get back together, get back together in the season of blocking, of which with new people. Sonor. No protection. Fornication from here to Timbuktu, and then you get back together and you keep on having sex with these people, and then once you contract HIV, more so do you then become bitter. More so do you become bitter. You will keep living in this at least life. Do you understand? Until God kills you, because that's what I saw in my dream. And the way that y'all are gonna die, women, because I get it is only fair to let you know how you're gonna be taken out. You're gonna get killed trying to leave the men you settled for. That's what I saw in my dream. This male spirit that was very entitled, that was driving this boat, was also so violent that any woman throwing these newspapers overboard, if any of them changed their minds and said, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to leave, it was determined to throw her too overboard, but not first before shooting her to make sure that she does not come up again. What I'm trying to explain, women, is that if you're at a point where you keep on doing spells time and time again to silence Karabo, you're saying to yourselves, no one can hear what she has to say. I am so, we're gonna get embarrassed. You're facing disgrace, Akir. You're facing embarrassment. You're facing being shunned, being frowned upon. That's what you're facing. You're telling yourselves over your dead bodies before messages like mine will be freely communicated, before saints will be let go to snatch whoever they can from the flames, before any woman that, albeit having started a wicked journey, can snap out of it, before they can snap out of it, before men, young men, maybe even older men, 35, 36, 37, can realize, okay, so I was walking around in a man cave that keep on ignoring girlfriends, even though their consciences are beating down on them. They keep on ignoring wives that are complaining, crying. Keep on walking out, getting on your motorcycle because you've got midlife crisis. In the middle of your wife's fighting, crying, complaining. And you just get in a car and not listen. If I don't stop doing that, this is not going to end well for me. You can't, like, I can't pride myself in having no character. I also can't pride myself in continuing to use the B word to refer to any woman. I can't pride myself to continue to speak with a woman using all different kinds of expletives. F you! You are speaking S, this, that, like, yo! I cannot just carry on like this. Umfazi agwasimelanga ukuthi sikhume nabo like that. You don't get to swing a fist because a woman slapped you. Not that a woman should be slapping you. That's the first mode of self-control. Women, stop slapping men. Just walk out. Drama queen. It's gross. It's unhygienic. So, ew, bilharzia much? It's giving bilharzia. Tlogelang le lona ho roga ka banna. And stop screaming at the top of your voice so the neighbors can hear when a dude is out here wreaking havoc in your life. There are ways to talk, but also a man does not get to respond to the F, lidi S, lidi P, lidi ing, lidi kwai kwai. And also, and like these men that keep on kicking women. Ooh, guys, like a man that I'll just be telling you, get out of my house, get out of my car. Where am I gonna go, idiot? I know that if this woman has her own car, her own house to go to. Bottom line is, if a man can tell you, get out of my house, get out of my car, he can throw you off a balcony. Because wa mufaraza. If you are on the 7th floor, he will help you get out of his house by throwing you out that roof. Because it is as endangering as throwing a person out from a tall building. To tell a woman in the middle of the night to get out, especially in South Africa, of a car on the middle of the highway or out of a house. In this South Africa of ours that's so full of gender-based violence, even if it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon on the N1 highway where everybody can see you, there is no one more in danger for being abandoned in a vast patch of random road than a woman in this country. So to say to a woman, be it during the day or at night, but especially at night, it's as good as throwing her out of a building because of what deal. They could survive, paramedics come, patch her up, and with crutches, she will testify against you in court. Or she could plunge to her death. They put women on stretchers, on gurneys, by not only telling them to get out of their cars, or by driving off from parties without taking the woman that he was supposed to drop off at home, even though they're fighting. I have been left because I didn't want to sleep with a guy at the library go sentence city because I said I'm not going home with you. On latile ko heso ko Florida. And then he left me at Santon City, just outside of the library, at night. And I had to call some other friend to pick me up, who was a guy. Ankisechai. Akitsebo roezalang. That happened back then. How many more of them are there now? At that stage, I was like 19 years old. 19. A man went and grabbed a 19-year-old woman, and left her go library go Santon. And I didn't even have any airtime. It was by the grace of God that guy responded to my please call me, stay 5. And at the time, people were restricted to 5 please call me's by Vodacom only. At the time. So thank God I was on Vodacom first and foremost, because MTN and all these other networks did not have please call me's. And there were only 5. And he responded. And he was not even my boyfriend. And he was decent enough to pick me up and take me home. If you are in that much danger in the life of a man, why are you getting back together with him? But there are men who have indeed told women to get out of their houses. Out just sitting in the Wendy Housing, a security guard, at 2 a.m. in the morning, on her phone at Tatazela, trying to get anyone to pick her up. Nganwam, mom, dad, colleague, here, please come fetch me. While the security guard is there in Jeffela, just while some chick is sitting in a little stulo inside his Wendy house. Pumendinyam, 2 a.m. Pumemotwenyam, 3 a.m. N1 highway, or 3 p.m. It's still a woman. What is she gonna do on the N1 highway at 3 p.m? Agazo, hitchhike. And what then happens with the hitchhiking women? Sometimes rape, murder, all different kinds of stuff. Men who have no chivalry, no ability to take care of women, leaving them high and dry and out on a limb. Gunabantu abavugayo to realize ukuthi kanti what kind of rubbish am I now? So when then voices of reason to tell people that this is nonsense. Makatuguti puman and engineer besak blog for 2 weeks, and then a month and a half later, after he scans these streets and realizes that it's a jungle out there, they say akfonela not bring back lost love. That too, gadi too. But what I'm trying to say is love back. Tries to get back together with you. There's all different kinds of elaborate things. I mean, really and truly, malomo, lili teddy bear, and all these things to convince you to get back together with him. But these blomos and these teddy bears would have been at a memorial around where it is that she got hit by a car in the run-up to her funeral. If you leaving her on the N1 highway at night had resulted in her getting knocked over by a car, or by some motorist stopping and her saying, no, I'm not selling my body, I've been dished here by my ex, by my boyfriend, and this guy being like, if you're prepared to come home with me, then we're good to go, and this chick being like, no, basically this guy a driver off by hitting her. Go violent in South Africa. There is no discretion in men against women. Again, discretion. So if this woman could have died, what under heaven makes you think you're a man in trying to get back together with a woman that survived your initial indiscretion? Similarly too, as women, what makes you think you're safe in the hands of a guy or arms of a guy that gave you elaborate gifts after basically attempted killing you, but it doesn't look like attempted murder?